And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Reverend Dr. Philip DeLong, medium and mystic, who had a near-death experience at the age of 12 and went to the angelic realm. Philip, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Pleasure to be on your show.
Well, we're excited to have you. And if you don't mind, can we start on the day that you had that NDE and go from there?
Okay, that was April 3rd, 1970. So that would be about 54 years ago. And it happened in Michigan. We had a little flurries that night. So I was going on my paper route, and somebody in a Jeep ran a yield sign, didn't see me, and dragged me under the Jeep for 50 yards. So in that case, I could see myself leaving my body. And there was a wrecked bicycle, and I was just laying on the shoulder of the road. And from that point, I went to what I would call just white light. It was no tunnel, no meeting people like that, but it was just the universe. And it was very peaceful. So the universe's vibrations are peace and love. And that's what I felt when I was there. And from that point, I was met by Archangel Michael. And at that point, he comforted me, but he also wanted to show me parts of the universe. So I went on a little bit of a tour with him to the outer extents of our galaxy. And at that point, I was shown how Earth was created and actually the creation of the universe. And it was a profound experience. I was in a coma for 3 days. And when I woke up, I was looking up at a ceiling. It was a white ceiling in the hospital. And the vibration I felt was as if the Blessed Mother put me back in my body, which I grew up Catholic, so that's why Archangel Michael and the Blessed Mother came in. I now refer to the Blessed Mother as one of the divine feminine.
Were you told that you had to come back, or you don't know and you just woke up in the body?
Michael told me that I was to come back. So after he showed me the universe, but the Blessed Mother then put me back in my body at that particular time. I am looking at a white ceiling when I woke up, and then my first words out of my mouth was, "Am I in heaven?" Because that's what the experience was.
If we go back to the beginning, were you already out of your body before the impact happened so you didn't suffer the pain?
As soon as I was hit, because I don't remember anything as to what pain I was in or what have you. And I don't believe I was in any pain at all after I woke up. So I had a little bit of plastic surgery after that. And it took a week for them to clean out the dirt in the areas they were going to repair. And they let me do some of the cleaning with the little tweezers, some type of instrument like that, and digging the little pebbles out, which is strange because that was like you could see the raw bone there.
Can you share with us what you learned on how the universe and the earth was created?
when the universe was created, it wasn't really what you would call a Big Bang theory. It was just a vibration of love and peace. And then it's almost like in sacred geometry, you have what we call the cosmic waves coming through, the harmonic waves. So it's like putting a pebble, throwing a pebble in a pond and watching the waves or the ripples of the waves harmonically going. And then from that, there was what I would call creation from that. So creation from what I would call the Godhead. And so when you have each of those waves went and created different galaxies, different universes. And there were what I would call angelic um, and the angelic realm creating each universe. So Earth, in her regard, had its own people creating our Milky Way galaxy. And when Earth was created, it's all that harmonic stuff came in. And it's like, you ever wake up in the morning and you see a little mist that lifts? It's that mist was the creation. And then when it lifted, then everything was created. And it had to do with creating the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, but this was all harmoniously created. In the beginning, uh, a lot of these creatures got along, you know, and then for whatever reason, if it was evolution or something like that, it's something shifted. And then we got into a duality part of what Earth is going through. But man walked with dinosaurs, so.
So, would you say that the energy that created everything, the raw materials, came from love? And then there were some sort of beings, I'm not really clear what beings were here in Earth, took that energy or that love energy and created what we have now.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying. So the energy came in, everything in the universe is an electromagnetic energy. So that created what we would call the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, which we are all part of metaphysically. We've gone through that creation as well. And then from there, some shift happened, and there were the elementals that were helping us too. The salamanders, the slips, the undines, and the dwarfs. They were all harmoniously helping us. But there was a shift where duality came into place. Like somebody had to be better than others. And I can't tell you what that shift is. It could be part of the angelic realm, which is written in most of the ancient texts. That happened with that, the fall of the angels is what they call it.
Why do you think Archangel Michael showed you this? Was it because he felt you should teach it, or he just thought it would be something interesting for you to see?
Oh no, there's always a purpose. Okay. So he probably came to me and gave me what I would call one of my jump starts as far as teaching this metaphysical or angelic realm material. But he came to me because I was born a Catholic. So in that regard, I had already gone through confirmation, and he was my confirmation name, Michael. So in the Catholic traditions. So I had already known who he was. Now, before I, received these gifts during the near-death experience, then as a child, I had the gifts. I could see people, I could talk to my imaginary friends, see the elemental world. It was like my whole youth is what I would call in a daydream type situation. I was connected more to the other side than the real world. I mean, and school was boring.
Yeah.
It was. So I'd always be out there and the teacher would come on. Hey, Bill, where are you? It's like, okay, wake up. You know the answer to this question, but fortunately for me, my conscious mind was paying attention, whereas the right mind was off daydreaming, and I could come up with the answer. It was just amazing. So,
So are you saying that you already had these abilities, or these were due to the NDE?
no, well, I had the abilities, but I grew up Catholic. My mother actually taught in parochial school. So in that case, these things did not exist, and you have an imaginary or an overactive imagination, and it's the work of the devil. so, so basically, I had them, and they were shut down for maybe 5 or 6 years, and then when the NDE came, it's a reawakening.
Was there some other catalyst that happened prior to all this that started you on your path with those abilities?
I would say that I was gifted when I was born, and I have a twin brother, by the way. So he is doesn't express his gifts or are unaware of them. So when we look at the gifts, then everybody has them. Everybody has the gift of prophecy. Anybody can be a medium if they want to. Everybody has the gift of miracles, the gift of healing, the gift of faith. So everybody can be a healer. And there are also the gifts of knowledge, wisdom, and discernment. So those were a lot of gifts I were given to in the near-death experience.
How do we turn on our gifts?
Believe. That's as simple as that. Now, there's another famous medium who would say that people are born with the gift. And in some extents, people have more natural tendencies to use the gifts, but everybody can develop them. And the medium that became famous as he got started was a tarot reader on the streets of New Orleans. And then when he made it big time, that, no, you're born with the gifts.
Why do you think most of us can't use them? Or why are they turned off?
There's a lot of belief systems that people are, when they go through life, they get all this information about them. So some of it is fear-based, and some of it is that fear-based is the work of the devil. So even in the Bible, if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, when the Israelites went into the promised land, that's where it states, don't listen to the mediums, don't listen to the card readers, the necromancers, etc., because it's the work of the devil. But then when you fast forward to the New Testament, then in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, I think it's 8 to 10, then we have the gifts of the Spirit that everybody has the gifts available to them, one being prophecy. So when you look at the Bible, it's which statement best fits your needs. All right. So there's a lot of trust and control that people use to snuffle out our own gifts. So it's up to the person. You have to believe in yourself.
It would be interesting if religion and school taught everybody right from the beginning that you have these gifts and you are expected to develop them.
Well, that would be good. I mean, some schools now, at least they're getting into the meditation portion of the spiritual work, and that will help.
So you mentioned the devil. Are you saying that the devil is real?
No, yeah, I am not. So,
Oh,
and what it has to be is it's religion is a lot about trust and control. Trust what we're saying, and we will lead you down the path of salvation. All right. And it all goes back to the translations of the ancient texts, which were written in Aramaic. And there's a certain word in there that was translated to devil. And then the real translation, as I see it, is it's the demon in your mind. It's not the devil, it's the demon in your mind.
that's interesting. Can you explain more about what that is?
Well, we have to look at our mind, and then our mind holds our imagination. Our imagination is what you would call your communion with God. So as God comes in, he's going to give you certain spiritual impressions. And there's several names for gods. The spiritualists call it infinite intelligence, but 72 other names for that divine source. If we call it creator, that's good too. So when we get that spiritual instinct from us, then our mind has free will. All right. What are we going to do with that? If it's on a good cause, that's great. If it's on a negative condition, then that's probably the demon of your mind working with you.
I think it's real easy to imagine good things or bad things. I mean, especially you could watch the news and see something terrible happening in the world and then start thinking about it and imagining it and or worse things. And I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, the demon in your mind.
Yeah, that's part of it. So when we see those negative things, then we're going to have to work with the energies and transmute negative energies into positive outcomes. So when we see the Gaza Strip being blown up, and we're going to have to send that area love and peace, but the whole area. And usually when I do my healing work, when I lead a healing meditation circle, I will send, healing energy to Mother Earth, to all the kingdoms, mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom, all of humanity, removing any discord, discomfort, or disease, but also sending love, peace, harmony, and healing to all the leaders of the world. That decisions are made for the highest good and peace exists everywhere. But that's what people have to do, be in that universal consciousness, and then things will change.
What do you think is the best way to control the demon in your mind?
Well, the first thing is ground yourself. All right. The second thing is observe before you make judgment. All right. The only difference between observation and judgment is that judgment has the association of right associated with it, or being right. So if you look at a situation, which your imagination is creating that scene, and observe, right? And then if you need to make a judgment, then take action. But you have to look at the free will of what is good and what is right, so, or what is bad. So I use an energy called the violet flame, which is from the Ascended Master realm and the IAM teachings. So that was from Guy Ballard in the 1930s. And then the work continued with Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and then Patricia Cota Robles is now working with that energy. So the violet flame is that energy that can transmute negative energies into positive outcomes. So that's what you're going to have to do. And the main part of that is the energy of forgiveness. So nobody should have unforgiveness in their heart. All right. And unforgiveness has the energies of hate, it has the energies of envy, it has the energies of remorse, and all that to more or less lower your vibration and not make you the person that you're supposed to be. So when you look at the Middle East, there have been people, when they were born, were given that vibration of hate, to hate a certain people. And that's just not right. You're just going to have to transmute that negative energies and see what is best for everybody.
What you're saying makes me think about Jesus, and I think maybe his, or at least one of his most important messages is forgiveness.
That is correct. And Jesus was a person who, what I believe is, came to Mother Earth. He taught us brotherly love, which is that forgiveness part of it. He also taught us prayers and affirmations. So prayers, when we can go to the Godhead ourselves without going through, in his case, a rabbi, or going through a priest or a guru, but directly to the Godhead.
You grew up Catholic. Are you still Catholic at this point?
I would say that I am more metaphysical. So I would say in the metaphysical aspects, then it includes all religions. And all religions have a path to the same source, which is the Godhead. So to answer your question, I would say no, but metaphysically, then it contains it.
I believe that all religions have value. And if you agree with that, what value did you get out of being Catholic?
It would be the main value is, in each religion has these, the Catholics call them the 10 Commandments. So the spiritualists have 9 principles. So if you have value out of following the commandments or the principles, then that gives you a source of light, and it gives you certain principles to stand by. The one principle that I like is the golden rule, which is do unto others as others would do unto you. All right. But we have to look at not playing with the demon. We have to look at the good side of things, right? If everybody would be nice to each other, the earth would be a better thing. But the demon side of it would say eye for an eye, and that's our problem with the earth at this point in time. So pretty much if we all live by common sense, that is part of the golden rule, which is not stated. But if we all live by common sense, the world would be a better place. But you can't teach common sense.
Earlier, when you were describing the creation of the universe, you mentioned sacred geometry. And I think you also study sacred geometry. So can you tell
Yeah,
us about it and give us like a quick crash course on it?
Okay, so I'll start with frequencies and harmonics. So everything in the universe is a frequency and has those harmonic waves that are coming to us. And we can see them as the color of the light spectrum. Okay, so when we measure the light spectrum, we go from infrared to ultraviolet, and based on what we can see. There's more colors in the universe than what a human eye can see. So then when we look at the vibration of red, then it's measured in a wavelength and say this is red. It's 1/33,000th of an inch. Okay, is that wavelength. And then when we look at the frequencies, then it's going to be a sine wave that's going to be long. All right. Then we have ultraviolet, which has a wavelength of, I don't know what it would be, 200,000ths of an inch. Could be incorrect on that, but it's going to be a short wavelength and the frequency is going to spike. All right, so these are the rays of the universe that are coming to us. All right, and they come into our causal body, go through our auras, and then go into our chakras. And this is where we get our own energies from.
Let me stop you for 1 second.
Yep.
You use the word causal body. What is that?
Okay, the causal body is what we would call our cosmic egg. So this is the aura that is connected to our crown chakra. So that would be the outer aura. And then there's 7 layers of auras and gets down to our physical body or etheric duplicate body. All right. So each of the auras then are connected to our chakra systems. Okay. So the causal body is where that light is coming in to our crown chakra, all those colors. So we have the light spectrum here. Then 40 octaves below light is what we call sound waves. So sound waves are also measured in colors. So, and they are measured in different frequencies. And there's lots of audio frequencies, the platonic audio frequencies, the sound frequencies, the solfeggio frequencies, but they all have color associated with them. So even if you look at the keyboard of a piano, it will vibrate certain colors when you press certain keys. All right, so then with those frequencies of color, then that's where we go to YouTube. And if I want a complete healing experience, I will look up H528 or no, 528 hertz green vibration to do a self-healing, right? So light and sound are connected. That's the vibration of the universe. Then we come down to our brain waves, which is 46 octaves below light and then 6 octaves below sound. All right. And each one of those is measured with a different frequency than sound or light. And that was a lot of research done by the Monroe Institute and a lot of the hemisync type um, tapes and CDs where you would balance both hemispheres of your brain to make you a better power, mind power. Okay, so here it is with that sacred geometry and being connected to the universe. So our brain waves can raise the 6 octaves from brains to sound, all right? And I can prove it because I'm talking to you. And if I, sing a little bit, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da. Sorry about that, audience. But then certain notes, do, when we get to me, then we're sending out a green frequency, right? So, all right. So we're a spiritual being in a physical body. So if we are grounded, then our brains, through our minds and meditation, can actually astro travel and become light. And then that's just like the near-death experience. Boom, go to that light. All right, I'm lucky enough to do it because I've had the experience that I can get there in 30 seconds. But we have to remember, as a spiritual being, we came in here and we're spending all our lives just remembering who we are. And so if anybody has had a meditation experience where we call it the void, all right, where you hear nothing, see nothing, you're just floating on air. And all you have to do to get back to that place is remember, right? So everybody can use their own mind to recreate their earlier experience. And that state, the void, is what Robert Monroe or the Monroe Institute would call the delta type state.
Did you take the Gateway program with the Monroe Institute?
I did not. So
Have you done any of their programs?
I have done a program that we call alpha training, and some other people call it silver mind control, if you've heard of that. So
Yes, I
I'm
have.
actually, all right, so I'm actually president of the International Association of Metaphysics. And then Jose Silva, actually, before it became Silva Mind Control, was called Alpha. And then he gave our organization the material to teach, but only to our members.
Is it the same material that the Silva Mind Control people
Yes,
teach?
it is. Yeah, it is. And a lot of that has been updated.
The Silvas or yours?
Ours, updated a little. I mean, the Silva Mind Control teaches a lot of things like quitting smoking, quitting alcohol and drugs. So there are a lot of other addictions that can be added to that. All right, the original materials, you're looking back at the 70s.
Did he give you guys that material before he decided to put it together and call it the Silva Mind Control?
Yes, he did. So,
Interesting. But you guys have the legal right to all the information because it was the predecessor.
Yes, but we can only teach it to our members.
Right. Do you feel that those teachings are really powerful?
They are. Um, and part of it I use when I teach in healing. And so we have to go back to where our mind is the creator. So in that, you're using the power of the mind to, say, create your own healing room in the universe. And then if you do distance or absent healing, then you can actually project yourself. That's what I was talking about, being, a spiritual being in a physical body, but projecting yourself out into that healing room where then you can perform any type of healing on anybody. Right? It's use your imagination. You have any tools that the universe has, past, present, or future. So, and you can do psychic surgery if you decide to do so.
I'm exposed to some of the advertisements by Mind Valley, which I think now owns the Silva Mine system. I'm not sure, but I think that's what's going on. And sometimes they talk about some woman that kept winning the lottery over and over. And I've heard recently something else about quantum jumping. Do you know about any of those things?
I don't know about the organization you're talking about. However, that you can use your mind and astral project. And I know that one of the people, trying to remember his name, he's passed now, but Dick Supin was out in Sedona, Arizona, and then I took a training class with him in Florida, and he was doing the astral projection, but he was looking at that time at the silver markets as to when to buy and when not to buy. So it's interesting that you can look in the future and predict things.
It's interesting to hear his name because I remember that name from like the 80s.
Yes. And I met him probably 2010 or 11.
All right. What can you tell us about crystal skulls?
All right. Well, crystal skulls, and I do work with them, are, um, let's start with the legends. Okay. We have the legends of the 13 crystal skulls. There was a Indiana Jones movie about it. And we have to look at the energy of the 13. All right. Now, I've been in the Crystal Skull Society, and I've worked with many people in there. And you go to a conference, and 49 people claim to have one of the 13 crystal skulls. All right. So that doesn't work for me. I've worked with one person who worked with Mitchell Hedges' skull, which is the most famous skull that we've had, and he would say that is the 13th skull. And then another person in Houston, close to Joanna Parks, then worked with Max. And he would say Max is the 13th skull, and then Shana Ra is the 12th skull. And what I teach is if you put numbers on anything, you're going to limit yourself. All right. So we have to look at the crystal skulls as part of the collective consciousness and part of the Christ consciousness. So crystal skulls represent humanity. All right. And is a representation of mankind, but it will allow you to receive wisdom and knowledge of the universe to do that. Now, the thing about the 13 crystal skulls is some of them will say they're all programmed the same, right? So if you work with one crystal skull, then you will get the vibrations of all of them. Others will say they contain separate information themselves until the 13th one comes along, and then we receive all of that information. So we have to look at, when we look at the legends of the 13 crystal skulls, then we look at the number 13. And then this is more sacred geometry literature when we go to numerology and the Hebrew gematria. So when we look at that, then there is a word, Echad, which is Echad, and it means one. All right. It has the numerology of 13. All right. So when we look at Echad or oneness, then we look at the 12 tribes of Israel around the one God, or the 12 disciples around Jesus, or the 12 zodiacs around the central sun, or the 12 meridians around our body. And then we get to the New Age, and now it's the 13 crystal skulls, but it's always showed 12 around the one when you look at the crystal skulls. And the Indiana Jones movie got it wrong. They had 13 in a circle at the end. So that's what I look at the crystal skulls. It's just, you work with them because the image is working with humanity, and then you're accessing that Christ consciousness or collective consciousness.
Are the skulls actually real skulls made from crystals, or is this just symbology?
The Mayan legend had, or the Mayan legend said that there were either 13 or 52 crystal skulls that got distributed around the world. And a crystal skull could be made of any material. The one that we see most is clear quartz or some form of quartz, but it could have been jadeite, found by the Mayans down in Mexico. It could be in Belize. It could be crazy horse agate. It could be jasper, but it could be of any material.
Why do we reincarnate over and over again? And is there an end point to it?
There is an end point to it. So we all have a soul purpose. All right, when we come down here. When we are born, we're trying to remember everything from our previous incarnations. So the reason we are reincarnated, and some people will call this a prison planet. All right. So we have to balance our karma. And then if our karma is balanced to a certain extent, then we break that cycle of incarnation, and then we work on the cosmic plane. That's the theory behind the ascended masters. People like Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, Saint Germain, and is that in their final incarnation, they balance their karma. Some people say it's only 51%, but I would say it's probably a little bit higher than that. So for an example, we have the Ascended Master Hilarion, who was a Catholic saint on the island of Crete in his final incarnation. And he was a hermit. He did healings, and he had the gift of miracles. So people would climb up his little mountain and he would do healings. Now, his previous life stream before that was St. Paul the Apostle, all right, who did a lot of good work with the teachings that he gave us. However, before he was St. Paul the Apostle, he was Saul of Tarsus, who persecuted Christians. So before he saw the light. And so from that regard, he came back and reincarnated as Hilarion. And then from that point, the karma was balanced, and now the ascended master Hilarion works on the cosmic plane, but as a spirit still contains the life stream of St. Paul the Apostle.
Since we come here with amnesia each time, doesn't it seem like it's almost impossible to balance out this karmic debt?
It is. However, I talked about the violet flame earlier, and Saint Germain works with that, one of the ascended masters. A previous life stream, he would have been Christopher Columbus, Merlin from King Arthur's time, Joseph, the father of Jesus, and Plato. So there's a lot of incarnations that when it went through Saint Germain. So because we're working with the energy of forgiveness, then you can actually work that and forgive your past lives and that karma in the past life. It's something, it's a spiritual tool that everybody can use. And then that forgiveness, then we're going to have to work with our own self. So in this, it's all part of the mind, all right, with that forgiveness. You don't have to actually go to the person and forgive them like My Name is Earl did. You remember that TV show?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we can do it with the power of the mind, because that might bring too much more pain back to us. And if we do that, if we send that forgiveness to the world, then it'll be a better place.
From what you're saying, I think that our main purpose is to remember who we are or where we came from. But do we have some other secondary purpose that we're supposed to be doing while we're here? And if so, how do we discover it?
All right. So our sole purpose, say, it is to progress along our spiritual path. And the secondary purpose, as you're talking about, is what I would say service, service, service. So the more service we can give to ourselves, start with ourselves first, then our immediate family, then our community, then our country, then the world. If we can do service work for humanity, then that is our secondary purpose.
There are a lot of people out there who are grieving over the loss of a loved one. And if you had a friend that was recently grieving, what type of advice would you give?
To begin with, the spirit never dies. So then the spirit goes on to an afterlife, and then you, through meditation or through other paranormal experiences, then you can connect to that other person. But you have to look at your own heart center. And that's where the grief resides. And grief comes in many forms. Usually it's the loss of a person, a pet, a job, an opportunity, but a loss. And what you have to do is remember the love. all right? So just remember the love of the person, and that from the heart center, if you infuse it with that love with the person, then it's going to release certain endorphins throughout your body that will get you into a happier space. But the thing of it is, we have to remember the love. Okay. The second part of grief is what I call remorse. So coulda, woulda, shoulda crap. So in that case, then a person, part of that grief is they can't hold on to anything as to what could I have done better. It's my fault for not, doing certain things to make this person still here, you know. And when that case, you have to release that. And yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery. Today is what we have as a present. Today is the present. So live in the now. Just live that love resides in you.
What is the name of the membership that we discussed earlier? And if people want to find out more about it, how do they do so?
It is International Association of Metaphysics, and the website abbreviated is iam-now.com.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
I am. My email is iamphilipdelong@yahoo.com. Texting 386-453-9356.
Do you have anything that you're currently working on that you want people to know about?
I'm actually working with a lot of crystal healing energy, and we have to look at the crystals and how they react to the chakra system. So if you want to balance your life, just get a set of chakra colored crystals, and that should energize you.
Well, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
The positive message is that the universe is all about love and peace. And when we make that connection to the universe, then we are filled with that love and the peace. Meditate, meditate, meditate.
Dr. DeLong, thank you for your message and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, and have a great day, Jeffrey.
You too. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.